Welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show, we'll have a talk about a Linux project, generally a Linux distribution, but it could be centered around a desktop environment, an application, maybe just an open mic night, talking about news. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, your host, Cubicle Nate, sometimes called Nathan. How is everybody?
Excellent.
Good. Good.
Excellent. Hopefully the volume is good and everyone can hear us fine, and I don't have things misadjusted again. And hopefully I don't erroneously mute myself when I'm ready to talk. So we're hoping for a better night tonight, and so forth. So is anybody doing anything exciting in Linux or in tech or anything, maybe a project they've been working on? Dan, have you torn apart any cars lately?
No, actually, I bought a new truck.
Oh,
I got sick of that stuff.
I can understand.
I took my old truck to the mechanic, and the body looks excellent. It's the whole underneath that's starting to rot out.
Sure, you live in Michigan.
I mean, crucial stuff like brake lines, and
those are optional. You have 4 of them for a reason.
The tire, the rim, all the paint's gone off of it, and it's just flaking apart, and it won't hold air. And
yeah.
I decided, rather than spending money to make this 2012 truck last, another couple of years, let's go see what they want for a newer truck. So I wound up purchasing a 2019 Chevy Silverado.
Oh, Silverado, I think is how it's pronounced.
Yeah, Silverado. It's like night and day between the other one. This one's like driving a pinball machine. I mean, you got to put your foot on the brake, then you start the engine. And because you put your foot on your brake, that prompts your memory to turn off the engine auto stop so it don't stop or shut off at stoplights and restart and does that thing.
Right. Well, that sounds exciting.
There's all kinds of. The mirrors got little amber car in them, and if a car comes up alongside you, it lights up and lets you know there's someone alongside you. Like you don't know how to use the mirror,
Well, we got to make things as easy as possible, reduce injuries and insurance claims, I guess.
The radio alone could cause half a dozen injuries. The way they got on that touchpad screen, you got to pull over to
that. Yeah. I do notice that the newer vehicles, they have a lot more of the toys in them, for sure.
Right.
I mean, I kind of, I drive an older truck, but I do have a newer minivan, and I tell you what, that infotainment system is actually really, I think it's pretty wonderful, actually. Although it's hard to watch Despicable Me with the kids while I'm driving, though, because it shuts it off, and that's so irritating. I'd like to be able to watch it while I'm driving, Is there a way to bypass that? Speaking of that, I've actually seen, I was driving on the highway. This is when I used to commute like an hour each way from here to Kalamazoo. I don't know if you've ever heard of Kalamazoo. It's fun to say Kalamazoo. I mean, who doesn't like to say Kalamazoo? Kazoo, AZO is the airport, 3-letter designator. But what I thought was funny is I actually saw somebody reading a paper while they were driving. I mean, it's just like completely in front of them, a newspaper while they were driving. And so I at that point, I decided I would speed for a while and get well past this individual because I didn't want them swerving in front of me and me getting caught up in a, who knows what. So I don't think they got to an accident. Maybe they're really good at reading a newspaper and driving. Is there a law against reading newspapers and driving? I know you can't text and drive, but is there a newspaper and drive? Is that a thing?
I hope so.
I think there is a law in the books called distracted driving now.
Okay. But was there?
If you're doing something that distracts you from driving, like shaving your beard off, going to work in the morning on the freeway, that's.
I've seen the makeup too on the highway as well.
That
whatever.
as well.
Yeah.
Wouldn't reading the paper be the same as reading your phone? Be the same distraction, wouldn't it?
You would think, yes.
I would think so. I mean, I think the spirit of the law says that. I'm not sure the letter of the law, and that's what lawyers argue is the letter of the law, I suppose.
It boils down to the discretion of the policeman that you got at your window when you're pulled over. I'm going to let you go. No, I'm going to take you to jail.
That's cool. Has anybody else been doing anything, have anything interesting to share? Mark, I understand you have something very exciting coming up. Is this true?
Yeah, so the Southeast Linux Fest is they finally have announced that they will be having a real life in-person event this year. It's typically the second week in June, as it is this year. It's June 10th and 12th in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Ooh.
And they're at the Charlotte Airport, where they've been before. I believe this is going to end up being very much like previous years if anyone's attended. They, during COVID, they did have online events that you could watch, and I watched those the past 2 years, but I'm excited to actually be going again. And I may be presenting. So I submitted a talk and waiting to hear back on that. So
that's awesome. So if I may ask now, no spoilers, because I don't like spoilers, I always want to slap the spoiler guy, but what would your talk be about?
Yeah, no, it's not a spoiler. It would be a beginner talk. I looked through the talks that have already been accepted, and I didn't see very many beginner talks. And one of the talks I've been wanting to give lately is a talk about for beginners that are really holding on to Windows and they don't want to just go there yet. So a large part of what I help people do in the AO Linux user groups and such is take that first step, right? And maybe you install that Ubuntu under Windows Services for Linux on Windows, and then you have access to the Ubuntu command line. A lot of people want to learn the command line; they're afraid of it. And then in our distro explorations, I always try to hook up remote desktop from Windows to Linux.
Right. That's
going to be part of the presentation, and then also Linux to Windows remote desktop, right, which is pretty easy. And that would be the presentation. And the title that I submitted was did you bring a Windows laptop to a Linux conference? So we'll see if it's accepted or not. Regardless, I'm going to do this presentation one way or the other, even if I do it for my own user group in Atlanta. So
that's cool. That sounds exciting.
So I put the link to the Southeast Linux Fest in the Zoom chat.
Yep. And Jinda put it out there on the YouTube chat.
Thank you, Jinda.
No problem.
Jinda is awesome at doing that. Now I would actually like to go to this. So would it behoove me to leave and be there like Thursday night and stay until Sunday morning? What is the what would you say is the kind of the experience there? Or just stay one night?
If your travel time's not too bad. I'm traveling Thursday afternoon. It's a 4-hour drive for me.
Okay.
But then I'm staying at the Sheraton. It's nice, and I don't go to the. There is a Thursday Geeks with Guns. I don't typically go to that. It's usually because I'm too tired of driving. But then Friday mornings, I'm up early and wanting to go to the Linux talks and get all the stickers and swag I can from the vendors. And there are some basically the hallway talk is the best thing that the entire conference has got to have. Typically Percona is there. They do a lot with the what is the database they support? I'm gonna let you look that up. Anyways, all the vendors that show up are great, and there's usually a lot of people working on open source and supporting the community, and then there's some extra things. There's a craft beer that you may enjoy. There's a craft beer night. That's Friday and Saturday night. And bring anything that like really off the wall stuff you may have local. And people go around and we just, you pour a little bit in a glass and try all the various craft beers. And literally they have, I'd be surprised if it's no less than like 500 craft brews.
And that's what night? You said the next night, Friday night?
Friday night.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the craft beer bottle share. And then you're in Carolina, so you may there'll be some moonshines that you can try.
I really can't do booze. I don't do sugars and such, but I do like a tasting of like the beers. Like I like to taste, a little bit.
That's what I do.
And otherwise it's not good for me. But it's interesting. So I was looking at the drive time. It would be 11 hours and 23 minutes from where I live. And
that's long.
Well, it's not that bad. I've done worse, way worse. I've done straight through to Florida before. So that would be fun to do. Like I don't know who from the Destination Linux or Tux Digital Network who's going to be there, but it would be fun because I've never done a Linux Fest before. And so this really really intrigues me. I think this would be lots of fun to do. And I'm a nobody, so I can just walk around. No one will recognize me, and I can just kind of keep quiet and listen to people talk. It'll be fun.
I think one of the ones that you may recognize that I'm really bad with names. Well, if you look at the early adopters, and apparently mine did get my presentation did get accepted. So Jeff Prost is there. I'm not sure if you know him. And then I'm looking down here.
Yep, I see your name on there. Did you bring a Windows laptop to a Linux conference? That's beautiful. Noah Chalaya will be there. I can actually meet
Noah
him face to face.
Is who I was thinking. Yeah, there you go. Noah, who was who I was thinking about, and he does his radio show from there.
That's awesome.
A lot of times. Yeah. So
what does it cost to go to the conference?
I don't remember the cost. It's going to be fairly cheap, and they haven't posted the price yet. But I want to say in previous years it was either $25 or maybe it was maybe it was 99 or 70 or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't know right now.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a lot of good people there. Make a lot of contacts.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to go to one. I mean, I've never been to the last conference thing I've been to was like a Star Trek convention in the 90s. I haven't been to anything like that since. So, and I did meet the guy who plays Will Riker, but I met him in an airport. That's a different story for another day. Yeah, nice guy, totally nice guy. He's just like the kind of guy you would imagine he is just on the show. Truly.
Yeah. In this conference, by the way, on Sunday, pretty much there'll be just a few tracks in the morning. By noon, everyone's out of there. They're wrapping everything up. So
on Sunday,
you can plan. I usually travel back Sunday afternoon.
Gotcha. Well, that's very exciting. Yeah, I think I would like to do that. I got to see if things line up, but that would be. I'd probably stay for the whole thing. Leave early on Thursday here. Arrive. Almost evening. I could get up earlier actually, and then I don't know. Just it'd be fun just to experience a nerd fest. That'd be just. I think it'd be loads of fun.
If you're gonna fly, it'd be a cheap.
Oh, no, I don't like flying. Nope.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Right.
I'd rather drive for 24 hours straight without an energy drink or a drop of coffee than fly for 6 hours, or even 2. Not because of a bad experience. I just don't like it. Except that one time the plane started dropping. That was fun. I actually enjoyed that. All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to share, or even thoughts on Linux conferences? Anything? Yeah, Dan.
Okay. I've been in touch with the Peppermint team, and they gave me some things they wanted me to relay to everybody. The developers of the team have not been sitting idle. They've been working fairly busy and trying to get our next distro up and
I wasn't
going.
accusing them of being idle, just so you know. I wasn't
Well,
accusing
I'm telling you what they're telling me on the notes.
Okay.
There are some visual changes on the initial boot up and in the desktop. For us, this has been a gradual progression in the last few months. Even if it seems like a big change in the release, the underlying core is intact and still the same. They have put a new update manager in it. It's really cool. It's a graphical update manager, and you open it up and you push a button to get your repository updates. There's another button that goes to the Peppermint repositories where you get the Peppermint tool updates and stuff like that. It's quite a piece of work. It is intended to keep the Peppermint tools up to date regularly on the schedule, and end users decide to work for themselves. There is a patch available called pepbit.sh. It can be found in the forums at SourceForge. That will add the new tools to installations from earlier releases. So if you have an early release, you get pepbit.sh from the forums, and you run that code, and it'll bring the pep tools part up to date. It also takes care of the few things that came up in the February 2nd release. Anyone still using this one may want to apply the pepbit.sh patch. The new additions from the installer with a large section of individual packages and groups of packages are none to keep things light and quick. So they're packaging this thing to be light and quick with all the changes they've made to it. Work is being done on the 32-bit build as well, and it will continue to release on the same day as the 64-bit version. The x86 or the x86_32 version has been in a great part made possible sooner by Manuel Rosa. I think we all know who he is. I will let him decide if he wants to mention that there is his Aquara OS distro. He has a distro of his own, I guess. The following week should see the addition of a much anticipated Devwan builds. So they're working on the Devwan part as well. That is really what they wanted me to relay to you guys. For the better part of it, they've been really upgrading it, and they're trying to get this out by the end of the month. If things go well, you may see it tomorrow afternoon sometime. If not, maybe in a few days. That's the news at the Peppermint front.
That's very cool.
Cool.
It's nice
Thanks
to
for
see.
sharing.
Yeah, it's nice to see the progress that's happening, and hopefully, what I'm concerned about, just my concern, is that they're not getting burned out. They feel still motivated and energized to keep working on the project. You know, even if it's not
I'm
at the
working
speed.
with them.
Yeah.
I'm actually the alpha tester. I have access to all the nightly builds. I get about 3 to 4 of them a week, so I can check the progress on things. And there's been quite a few bugs that have been uncovered and that we've repaired. So the releases coming out should be almost bug free. I'm not going to jinx myself and say there's not going to be any bugs, but it's been looked through really good. And it'll come with newer wallpapers that you can download. There'll be a section in the Peppermint welcome screen where you can get additional wallpapers, themes, and stuff like that. You really should go and get that stuff because some of the wallpapers are pretty gorgeous.
Gotcha. Good wallpaper is always good. I wonder, is it like photographs or some things that people generated, or what do they have?
Both.
Oh, okay.
It's a mix of everything.
That's cool. Excellent. Does anybody else have anything you want to share before we kick it off over to our Ubuntu exploration? Shickle, welcome. I'm going to see if I can hear hear your levels here now. This way I don't have to adjust.
Hello.
Later.
How's it going?
Beautiful. Perfect. Spot
Thank
on.
Thank you.
As always, except last week. All right. So, well, it was up and down. I don't know why. Maybe Zoom. Well, excellent. So I'm missing Steve and I'm missing Eric because I've thrown things at them and I've missed every time. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Ubuntu Linux. Now, the intent is to have a talk about the different aspects of the operating system and discuss your experience after using it or as you're using it, whichever. This is a discussion by which only objective, constructive comments about the product are going to be accepted. Non-objective opinions like this is garbage, is not helpful. Rather, we'd like you to say, I wish it had feature X or feature Y, or I really need this feature to allow me to do, task N if we're using algebraic variables here. So we would like this conversation to be as beneficial as possible. The point is to highlight the positives, but not to ignore any of the lowlights of the project as well. Remember, this is a labor of love for a lot of people, so let's not do anything to poo-poo on it because people really put their heart and soul into this, and I would like this to be an encouraging and as helpful of a conversation as possible to everybody. So the poll was put into the Linux Saloon Telegram group. How is the official Ubuntu flavors for 2204 exploring going for you? 34% said it's amazing. 38% said it's okay. 0 said I'm not having a good time with it. That's excellent. 14% I'm not interested in trying it. 0% said I'm unable to do this exploration. 14% said I'm not interested in doing the exploration in general. And nobody gave an other. So that's pretty exciting. And I kind of figure like Ubuntu is generally I think a pretty rock solid experience at this point.
Yeah, since I put it on a potato, I upgraded to amazing.
Oh, you upgraded to amazing. Okay.
Because it's on a potato.
Well, there is that. So now, if I know how many people here are familiar with Ubuntu Linux. Has anybody here not heard of Ubuntu Linux before? If so, please leave. No, I'm kidding. I would not. So Ubuntu is built on the Debian architecture infrastructure. It comprises a Linux server, desktop, and they've discontinued their phone and tablet operating system versions, but they still exist as Ubi ports or as Ubuntu Touch. So it does live on. The Ubuntu releases update every 6 months, and each release receives free support for 9 months, 18 months prior to 1304, with security fixes, high-impact bug fixes, and conservative, substantially beneficial low-risk bug fixes. The first release for Ubuntu was back in October of 2024. So the current long-term support releases are supported for 5 years and are released every 2 years. Since the release of Ubuntu 16.06, every fourth release receives a long-term support. So long-term support includes updates for new hardware, security patches, and updates to the Ubuntu stack or cloud computing infrastructure. First LTS release was supported for 3 years on the desktop and 5 years on the server. Since Ubuntu 12.04 LTS, desktop support for LTS releases was increased to 5 years as well. LTS releases get regular support releases with support for new hardware and integration of all the updates published in that series to date. All right, so rather than go into all of that, what I did want to go over is the... does anybody have anything they want to add about like Ubuntu and its history and so forth? So some of the ISO options... Go ahead.
I'll just mention, I've been following Ubuntu for well over a decade. I mean, I don't remember when I first started looking at Ubuntu, but I'll tell you what, just the consistent releases and the quality that have been, put out there, and like I was saying, at conferences, they would give you free CDs of Ubuntu, and then if you go buy a Linux magazine at the bookstore, many times you'll get a Ubuntu free CD there. Just that has promoted Linux so much over the years that I think that's well where where we're at today. I mean, I don't think we would have all of that if that hadn't happened. So I know there's a corporation behind it, Canonical. I don't know a lot about them, but they do offer paid services to many countries and companies and all that to support Linux. And if you're not in that ecosystem of the Red Hat area, then this is your other option that is supported worldwide. So I just want to mention that part about it. It's just, I think it brings a lot to the Linux community.
Well, I think very much they have. I would say they advanced Linux a lot in those first 10 years, especially that they were part of it. I wasn't. I've never been a huge Ubuntu user. I have been using it. I am using it today, not on this machine, but on another machine. And I've always have had a good experience with Ubuntu. It's never been a problem machine. I mean, not for me anyway. I was on Mandrake when Ubuntu came out, and because Mandrake was the easy one at the time, and I kind of got used to the RPM world. And I think I tried Ubuntu, but I just didn't care for it as much. And then because I liked Plasma or KDE at the time, and so that's just where I stayed. And they had Kubuntu came out, but then it's just kind of like once you get sort of entrenched with something. For me, I'm not a hopper. I like to kind of get comfortable and cozy, and then I just don't move.
You mean when you started out, you didn't even hop a teeny bit?
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of space to hop. There was Mandrake, Fedora, and actually that came a little bit later. And then there was Debian, and then Ubuntu, basically. I mean, there was Slackware, but I don't want to do that. In Gen 2, there was that. And you could also, Linux from scratch was always an option. They just didn't have a cool book.
Yeah,
but,
in 2018, I hopped around like a kangaroo with a match stuck in his foot.
Yeah, I can see that.
I
would
found
be a lot of
something I
hopping.
could deal with.
Yeah, so I started my Linux journey in 2002. That's when I started the journey. So I wouldn't say I became really comfortable with it until I didn't run it full time until like the end of 2003. So I guess it's been almost 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I know I did the math wrong on that.
Yeah, I'm probably the super green one here.
Yeah, you're pretty eyeball deep in it though, so don't sell yourself short.
I think I'm the green one. I started in November or just October.
Oh, yeah, you might be. I'm the green one too because I like OpenSUSE. So some of the ISO options for Ubuntu, we have Ubuntu proper, which is their GNOME release, and have Kubuntu, Lubuntu. So I'm sorry, let me back up. Kubuntu is their KDE Plasma. Lubuntu is the LX Qt desktop environment. Ubuntu Budgie has the Budgie desktop environment. Ubuntu Chillin has the, I'm not sure, it's oops.
The UK UI desktop.
That one. And then there's Ubuntu Mate, which is the Martin Wimpress edition. Ubuntu Studio, which is it's tailored around doing production work, content creation, could be video or audio type work. I think that's kind of what it's centered around. And it uses the Plasma desktop. And then Xubuntu, which is an XFCE-based desktop environment. So for those here, Colin, what did you use? Which one did you spin the wheels on? Take for around the block. Kick the tires.
I just did Ubuntu proper because I'm doing a video on that, which I normally do when they do a major release. Not straight after release, sort of a little bit after, but writing that bash script and extending that bash script with things to do. So I do that because it sort of just gives me a good insight on the because Ubuntu is Ubuntu at the end of the day. Its desktop paradigm doesn't really change too much, just the way that they do things under the hood changes slightly, I believe. So, people will be familiar with it, except for the GNOME 42 desktop, I suppose, will be a bit of a change to a lot of people coming from probably 18 and 20. That would be the major change, I think, just the way GNOME 42 works. Otherwise, there's not a huge amount of changes. But you want me to give my views on Ubuntu?
I want to go around just find out what different people are using. So yes, I do But
Oh, yeah. All right.
but let's push a pause on tape on that one
Nah,
just for now.
Absolutely, I'll stop
then,
short for now.
That's
no
all right,
problem.
because I don't want to tease too far into that. So Dan, which one did you
No,
give a try?
I went with Ubuntu Mate.
Mate? Okay.
And I put it on an old Dell 2-core potato.
Well,
And
I think
it's a souped up potato. It's
What's
got
that?
new processor and stuff in it, but it runs pretty well on it.
it's like
Peter.
yeah, so it's more like a deep fried potato.
Yes.
All right. Now, is it cut into little slices?
Yeah, there was a few things I had to especially rig for it, but other than
Okay.
that,
All right,
it
cool.
comes with Pluma as the text editor. Every time I tried to open a script with Pluma, it would log me out, and then I had to log back in, and all my work was gone.
Well, that sounds not fun. All right.
Well, I uninstalled Pluma and I put a leaf pad or feather pad in it,
okay.
and that seems to work.
Well, don't go too far because I don't want you to.
All right, I'll stop
No,
right here.
no spoilers. No spoilers.
No
All right, no
spoilers.
spoilers. Yeah. All right, Jinda, which one did you try? One of the Ubuntu's?
XFCE, Ubuntu.
XFCE. Okay, Ubuntu. So you got proper, Mate, XFCE. Mark, how about you?
I did straight up GNOME, the basic install. I needed it. I purchased a new laptop, and I needed I needed a kernel that was 5.15 or above, and that's why I went with that. And I was fine with the GNOME desktop, although my second favorite is the Ubuntu.
Okay, I understand that for sure. Vince, welcome.
Hello, hello.
Your volume is
I
great.
do enjoy a bit of I've got Ubuntu GNOME on a couple of systems. I do enjoy a bit of GNOME, so that's what I'm using. I do have a home theater PC that I have had on Ubuntu, but that's still sitting on 20.04. I'm planning to probably upgrade that to Ubuntu 22.04 when I get a chance.
No, just so I'm clear, is Ubuntu GNOME, is that a derivative then, or is that just Ubuntu proper?
No, proper.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure. Just to make sure. I just want to, I don't want to get a stick in my bicycle wheels and flip over my handlebars on that one. So, all right, cool.
That would be messy.
Yes, and I might lose some teeth. So you said proper. You did or the GNOME, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've got that running on at least a couple of systems.
All right, that's awesome. All right, Shickle, are you running any Ubuntu's?
I am not.
Okay, so you're our what would we call it? Your casual observer.
Fly on the wall.
Fly on the wall. Question maker. So I expect at least 3 good questions from you by the end of this show.
I'm just here for the technical, the weird quirky bits that nobody actually needs to know.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, excellent.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm gonna mess it up. Shravan.
I went with Ubuntu Budgie. So for Raspberry Pi, there are only 2 editions available. One is official, the other one is Budgie. So I was like, let's go with Budgie. I don't like GNOME.
Okay, so we got proper, Budgie, and Mate, and we say Ubuntu too, right? Did someone say Ubuntu? I'm confused now.
Yep, Ubuntu. Yep.
All right.
Yes, Ubuntu.
All right. So we got awesome, and I did Ubuntu proper as well because I always lean Plasma all the time, and I thought I would break away from my norm. And nobody did Kubuntu this time, so now I feel like I maybe messed up, but that's all right. Well, excellent. Did anybody have any issues installing whatsoever with their methods? I know, Mark, you have a unique method that you personally choose to test out distributions, but did you have any issues this time, or did you even use that this time?
No, I haven't had any issues, and yeah, my unique test is that I usually try to get the remote desktop with XRDP running. I actually haven't. I'm not sure if I've tried that on the GNOME desktop, but it works fine on the LXQT. I'm running that on a VM.
So GNOME have RDP enabled by like it's there as a feature now, with starting from GNOME 42, and I've been using that. That's pretty good. It works out of the
really?
box. Yeah. So if you, I think as you go to settings and sharing, they used to use VNC, but now it's RDP. Initially, when you first connect, it might not work, but if you log in, log out, it works.
Interesting.
Well, thanks a lot. I will try that.
So RDP performance, my understanding, is better than the alternatives. And
yeah, I'm a big fan of it.
Okay. And what makes it better specifically? Is it just faster or?
It's something that I don't know Microsoft have done with the compression. And the other thing that works with it as well is sound, which you'll find problematic with other forms of desktop sharing. So, I mean, because I'm quite familiar with RDP because we use it at work, but that's connecting to Windows servers. So now that it's more readily available in Linux, I think I'm going to be using it more.
That's interesting. And that kind of changes the game a little bit, I think, if people are switching from using RDP to or VNC to RDP for a lot of people, then makes the interoperability a lot easier. Kind of, it actually makes you think of like what other possibilities you can do, like just thinking, you could potentially then, if the performance is that good and you can actually do sound in it, I mean, what stops you from running an application on a Linux machine from another machine?
Yeah, you can watch YouTube videos remotely on a local machine, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You can pipe it.
Mm.
You can bounce it off one machine into another. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Did anybody else have any like issues with how they with their installation process of?
I didn't have an issue, but I have a slight sort of complaint. So on the Ubuntu Budgie website, there are instructions for installation, but it's like a compressed image. There is no instruction to say like you have to uncompress the image first before burning it. And the uncompression part took like 15 minutes, just took 15 minutes to uncompress the image, and none of like I wasn't warned about it before, and I knew like I saw the exact format and said I have to uncompress it and then burn it later. So the entire process took maybe a lot of time, like uncompressing it and then burning it.
I think Ubuntu Budgie does provide decompressed ISOs as well.
For the Pi?
Oh, for the Pi, yeah, no, they might not do
I'm
that
talking
for the
about
Pi.
the Pi, yeah.
Okay.
So the entire process, like I used a Pi to uncompress and a Pi to burn. So overall, it took a lot of time, a lot more time than I expected.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't try any of the Pi images. I want to welcome Adam, who has joined the stream. But I'm also doing this to see if I can make sure your volume is good, so I don't have to edit you later.
What's good?
You go a little bit louder, Adam.
What's good? How's it going? Oh, the mic's not pointing at my face. How's it going?
Great, and even better now that your mic level is nice. That makes me happy. It's right in the yellow. Perfect spot in the yellow.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The only thing with the installation I had is it took 20 minutes, but it completed it.
So for me, the initialization part took like 20-30 minutes. Then I had to go to the install process. That took more, maybe 20 minutes. So overall, it was like 40-50 minutes.
Things are a lot different if you don't have an SSD.
I find that's very spoiled now with the whole SSD thing.
That's the
whole,
biggest improvement you can buy.
Yeah, like I was very resistant to going from hard disk drive to SSD, and I was foolish. So that's all I have to say about that.
Again, I agree, but if you're making an addition for the Pi, you have to take into account the hardware you're running on. So.
Oh sure. All right. Anybody else? Like Jinder, do you have any comments on your installation process?
No, it went smooth, so no problems at all.
Yeah, that was my experience too. Very smooth. It installed, no problems. I don't have any hangups. I know they changed the installer from the previous, but
no,
honestly,
they didn't.
No, they didn't. I thought they were changing.
That's still Ubiquity, the Ubiquity installer.
Okay.
The new one, I think they had problems with, so they decided to leave it out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that looked like the Ubiquity.
Yeah, because it looked identical to the installer that when I previously did Ubuntu. So I thought, wow, they know there was all that talk about changing the installer to like a Flutter based or whatever, but I guess it didn't happen. So I was happy with the installer. It went well, and yeah, no complaints there. What about your initial run? Like when you first set it up, like when we first turned on the machine, like fresh install, did you add any applications to make your world more complete?
So I generally, the first app I add is Barrier, so that I get like mouse and keyboard access from a normal computer to the Linux I'm running on the Pi. So I installed that first, and it was I think it was in the repo, so it was fine.
Just a note on Barrier. Sorry, Nate.
No, go ahead.
I have
Note
a
on
little bit
Barrier.
of something about Barrier.
Please.
There is a bit of an issue with using Barrier on Wayland.
Yes.
Apparently, because I've just tried to connect it. Yeah,
It
Yeah.
won't
it
work.
doesn't work.
It's not
It
there.
doesn't work.
So according to Neil, he's a member of the Tux Digital Network. He says that the fix for that is actually coming very, very soon. Like they're on the precipice of releasing the fix for that. So that's coming soon, because that is my one barrier for being able to switch from X to Wayland right now, because I can't live without that.
Yeah, the same thing. That's one of the reasons why I choose Budgie too, is like Wayland Barrier won't work.
What is Barrier? Can anyone explain? I've never heard of that.
It's a virtual KVM. So like what I have right here, I actually use Q Synergy, which is Barriers based off of it. And what is I can control two computers, like my main computer, and then I have a laptop here that I do like the streaming stuff. Also, I'll like I turned off Discord and Element or Matrix or whatever you want to call it, Shield to Chat, on this computer, so you don't hear the notifications, because even though I mute the notifications, they still somehow come through. Thanks, guys. So I move it all to a side machine, so all the communication is done there, and also the stream control is done there, and everything else. So I just basically move my mouse over there, click whatever, and then I come back. And it's like using one computer, like it's a KVM, a virtual KVM. I use it all the time, like for other things too. I have I have different profiles I set up on my laptop, so depending on what room I'm in, I actually switch the profile so I can control that machine or whatever. It's very cool. You should look into it. Once you get hooked on it, you'll have a hard time unhooking yourself, and then you can't switch to Wayland, and it screws up your entire life. But anyway, so I highly recommend you screw up your life. Anyone else like initial setup? Like, there any thoughts on initial setup?
In my case with the Potato, Wi-Fi didn't work out of the box, and I didn't really expect it to, because I got one of those early Broadcom B43 set, Wi-Fi chips. The real easy way to get around this and get Wi-Fi to work real fast is if you don't have Synaptic Package Manager, which Ubuntu Mate does not come with. So, but you still can install it from the command line, and you just put B43 in the search in Synaptic, and it'll give you 3 files. You click them all for install them, reboot the machine. Your Wi-Fi is working.
Well, that's good to know.
And that's the main thing I had setting it up and getting it going as far as usability.
Now, Adam, you run Ubuntu pretty much all the time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that'd be the main distro, the main Linux distro I use. Yeah.
Are you using 2204 now?
I am.
And which version are you using? The proper, the GNOME?
Well, I was using the GNOME one, and to many people's surprise, I've actually been using Kubuntu.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
And now, why did you make that switch? You've been outspoken in the past about your dislike for Plasma. So I'm curious.
No, not my dislike for Plasma, just my love
your disdain.
for GNOME.
Your disdain for Plasma. Is it disdain? What's the?
No, I don't have any ill will against Plasma. Just I really enjoy GNOME.
Just a little bit.
But no, like it's one of those things, like, you shouldn't really, should really question your preferences from time to time, right? Like,
sure.
Like, so
like your friends you hang out with.
I prefer GNOME. It's like, well, obviously, because you can only run one at a time, because that's how things work. It's like, well, I'll see how Plasma goes, and I often try it, but never really give it a good a good whack, you know. And this time I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep using this. So
I reckon it's because it's got GNOME, that the GNOME type activities overview on it. Has that sort of persuade you to try it out?
I
That new change?
did not use that at all. I did not know that was a thing.
Okay. I thought that might have been one of the reasons.
Nope.
I was wrong.
I just use pretty much vanilla Ubuntu. Like I barely
fair
make
enough.
a difference because I'm a GNOME user, so I don't know about changing things. And
Right.
you know, so
That's a good one.
yeah, I just use the defaults, and they work. Like they're not. I mean, they're not great. It's still like, but as far as Ubuntu goes, I find that the 2204 base is really solid. I use it at work on the GNOME version, and it works wonderfully. You know, it's Ubuntu, right? Like it's kind of interesting how it's kind of boring now, I guess, but that's a good thing. That means it's like reliable, you know. Because
Right.
like if it's exciting, then you never really know what it's gonna do. It's like, is it better to have, you know, a spouse who's like pretty on the level, but like, you know, it's not the greatest, but you could have someone with like borderline personality disorder, and it'll be exciting, but I'm not sure that's what you wanted, you know.
I personally don't like exciting
So-
when it comes to installing something new. Exciting usually means I'm nose deep into README and text files or forums, and that's not the kind of excitement I want when
Yeah.
installing something new.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, the older I get, the more I just want things to work, but I still have that weird like nerd tendency to just can't help myself but mess with something. So I don't know. It's a nice mixture of that, I guess. Also, a lot of the projects and stuff that I like to mess with tend to support Ubuntu better than the others.
Okay.
Whether it be some random, you know, like DevOps stuff at work or whatever, they just tend to work better on. They tend to work better on Ubuntu.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's been kind of the popular one for numerous reasons for many years.
Yeah.
Although I do notice that, at least, you know, as an OpenSUSE user anyway, that seems like it's a lot more, software's more available now thanks to universal packaging and so forth. All right. Well, so when I installed Ubuntu, I went through. I didn't connect any online accounts. I don't know if you noticed that, like they ask if you want to, you know, sign on to some things, whatever. I did not do that. What I did think was interesting is the help improve Ubuntu. Did anyone look at the show the first report? Did you guys look at that at all? I thought it was very interesting. It actually gives you a breakdown of everything that that they send, your BIOS version, you know, your hardware, and all these different really interesting little things that they send. And personally, I like to send this information because I'm hoping that, you know, I can somehow benefit the entire, you know, I can help them out based on, you know, reporting and whatnot. So I always like to elect, as long as they ask, you know, it's like if someone comes to my house and says, "Can I have something to drink?" and you offer them something, that's one thing. If they go into your house and they just go into your fridge, I can't have a problem with that. But if they ask, you know, I'm more welcoming on that. So kind of the same thing. So I do like the whole report thing that they have there as well. Also, I did, you know, install the updates right out of the gate, and I did have some, like, I'm gonna hold off on that. Did anybody else set up like a email account or anything like that out of the gate just to test it out to see how things work?
Yeah, I did. I logged into my Google account because I thought it'd be nice to try. I haven't tried it before, particularly for the calendar, because and it worked pretty well. Because my wife basically plans my life for me, and if I don't have a Google Calendar, which we share, and she tells me what I need to do,
You'd be stuck in
then
your
I'm
room
a
all
bit
day.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You know, get out here and look after the kids. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
Does she say when you have to take your walks too and drink your Geritol?
yeah. What? The what? Drink what?
It's like a don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. And yeah, so the calendar app just populates all my calendar tasks and entries. It's just because we have a couple of shared calendars, and it brought them all in pretty just without any special configuration. I haven't tried the email yet. I think they're using Thunderbird by default.
They are. Yep.
So I haven't tried that yet. Yeah. At least the calendar works with Google.
That's good. Yeah, I
Well-
use the Google Calendar quite a lot too. I've tried using other calendars, but they seem to be ropey in in K-Organizer. So I don't know what the problem is because they're just LDAV files essentially. LDAV, iCal, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm still having problems with those. But the Google one, I would think I'd have the most problem with, but I don't have a problem with that one, and I don't know why. What are you say, Colin?
I was going to say I didn't try the online accounts, but I am running it on my GNOME 42 here. So it pretty much, if you're running GNOME, it'll work on most occasions, I'd have to think, and it works pretty well. So I can vouch for that.
What I liked about the Thunderbird, is that what it was? Thunderbird is.
Yeah.
So I have an email at cubiclenate.com, and so I put in my email into that, and it automatically pulled up all the right information as to set up the account. And I'm not managing my own; it's through private email, and so it had all the information, set it up for me, and it was literally no fuss at all. It was like Kmail, no fuss at all for setting it up. I just put in my, the basic stuff, and it took care of everything for me. And I was really impressed that it worked like that because even some newer email clients I've tried have not been that nice. In fact, like when we tried Elementary the last fall, whatever, it did not automatically, like I had to set that up manual. So I don't know where they're pulling that information from. Slightly frightening, but good job on that, I think.
I wanted to mention.
Did you only mention Elementary because Shikul left? Or dropped out?
Oh, I mentioned it because he was here, but apparently I wasn't paying attention. No, I just noticed it was kind of odd that it didn't work in that one. That's all.
So I have an additional install I can tell you about. And this was, I installed Ubuntu from the Microsoft store. And again, this is what I'm doing in my presentation, that Microsoft store actually has a Ubuntu. It's a complete Ubuntu terminal environment that runs in the Windows subsystem for Linux, WSL, right? And so 2204 is available. And again, it's not a desktop environment, and you can't run GUI apps. But what I like is it for the command line, it does. You have all the SSH client that is going to work best with your Linux computers, right? I also use G-Cloud suite to connect all my Google Cloud stuff. And that runs just fine under that.
I've also been using WSL since last October. That's how I got introduced to Linux. I was surprised, like you saying you're giving a presentation about WSL for new people. I think that's a good way to start using Linux. I got comfortable with command line. I knew what to do. Then I was like let's start over using Linux on my old laptop.
Yeah. And one thing you should do if you're using WSL, for anyone watching the recording, is you can actually make symbolic links to your Windows download and documents folder. And then that way you don't have to traverse the mount. And if you just make a symbolic link in your Ubuntu Linux home, then you can just CD documents and you'll be there, or in downloads, and you'll be in the same folder that all the other stuff is in.
Now, GNU Linux in the chat says you can run GUI apps as well. Did you try GUI apps?
Yes.
How well does that work?
I haven't, because for GUI apps to work out of the box, you need Windows 11. I don't have Windows 11, but on Windows 10, if you have an X server running, you need to do some settings. You can get GUI apps running if you have an X server running. I have an X server running on my Windows system, but I haven't tried to set up the displays and other settings to get GUI apps working. But it seems it's not that difficult, but it's a little bit shaky. But that support is there in Windows 11, but I don't want to upgrade.
Yeah, I don't want to upgrade to Windows 11 either. So I'm hopeful for that in the future, but not right now.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit slow coming over because it seems they have to backport some things. I'm not sure. I follow the discussion sometimes on their GitHub, but I don't think that support is coming anytime soon. It might come later, but again, they want you to switch to Windows 11. So
Yeah, I don't have any Windows 10 or actually I have 10 in a VM. It's the best I got. I don't have any machines that are running like Windows because I just don't enjoy it, so I just don't use it. I haven't heard any good things about Windows 11 though. I've only complaints so far, but everyone always complains anytime there's a new version of Windows, and then they get over it and they complain again. I don't know. It's whatever, I guess, on that.
I refuse to throw away my perfectly good old hardware just to satisfy Microsoft with new hardware. I think that's the sentiment of a lot of Windows users right now.
I got you. I thought they rolled back some of their security requirements. Am I wrong about that?
they made workarounds.
Yeah,
They made workarounds.
Is
okay.
is that for the TPM? Is that for the TPM you're talking about, or?
Yeah,
Yes.
They made official workarounds.
Oh, okay. So we
Official.
yeah. Otherwise, they're being very environmentally unfriendly if they do that. Or everyone uses the
Yeah,
uses Linux
they
instead.
give you the choice now to use workarounds so you can see it and play with it and fall in love with it and all that stuff, and then they'll rip the rug out from underneath you and you'll need the new hardware.
It's
Okay.
the Windows roller coaster releases. It's like a good release, a bad release, a good release, a bad release.
Well, it's supposed to be it's like Star Trek. All the odd ones are good or whatever, right? Is that how it goes? Or is all the even ones are good? I don't know.
I'm not sure how it works.
Because 7
but,
was good. 8 was kind of a flop, I thought. 10 I thought was good, but there wasn't a
flop.
9. Was there a 9? No, there
They
wasn't a 9.
didn't do a 9 because they didn't want people to get confused with 95 and 98. So
No, they didn't
refused-
do a 9 because I think I heard this story somehow, and there might be some more technical people here, but because of the naming of some of the underneath things within the core of the distro, they couldn't use 9 because it would conflict or something. That's what I heard.
That's weird. Well, I know that. Okay,
Well,
I think
that's better than what I heard.
well, like Windows NT 4, and then it was Windows 2000, which was technically 5, and then XP I think was 6. Oh wait, or no, or was XP not NT based?
XP was just XP. It
No,
was
I'm saying
just
like
XP.
underneath.
It's just
Underneath there was something else. Like actually, like the numbers actually carry on. And Windows 7, like
95?
Vista was actually Windows NT 6. I read that someplace. I could be wrong. Doesn't matter. Because it has nothing to do with Ubuntu. So were there any applications that you installed just to be able to, do your regular computery type activities? Dan.
Okay, I had a problem. Again, it's a potato. I'm not faulting Ubuntu for this. But,
Now, is it an Idaho
it
potato,
comes-
or is it more of like a russet potato?
It's a high performance
Is it a-
potato. It lays rubber and puts out smoke.
A red potato.
Is it a
tiny
potato
one.
or a patata?
Oh,
Both. Mate comes with a text editor called Pluma. Okay, I could not actually open any files with it or scripts or anything to do anything with them because every time I did, the screen would go black. It'd go back to the login screen. I had to log in again, and then all my work and stuff I had open would be gone. And I got around that by completely removing Pluma and installing Featherpad, and that works fine. That's the main issue I had. I can't remember if I installed Celluloid or it came with it or not, but I did play a lot of multimedia videos directly from an SD card. It picks up the SD card just fine. There's like 100 videos on here. And you stick it right in the slot and it picks it up. So that's all I've added to it, really. Oh, and I installed the DVD codecs as well. I watched a part of a DVD. So I didn't have any trouble with that. And as long as you kept the applications, to a minimum of the number of them running, things ran really smooth.
So can I talk or we?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I've been working on a bash script. I've been creating a video that I'm going to upload. Don't know when, but it's taken a while. But the first thing I installed was Ubuntu restricted extras.
Because it said restricted. Is that the reason why?
Yeah, well, it allows you to play DVD videos and things like that. The one thing that
are you the guy that goes up the escalator the wrong way, Colin? Are you that guy?
I could be, yeah. Yeah, keeps.
I'm sorry. I'll stop interrupting. I'll be quiet.
But no, that's all right. So the video player that comes by default with Ubuntu, I'm not very keen on. So I don't want to bash anything, but I mean, it just didn't play any video files at all. It's the Totem player. I know it's been around for many years, but I've never really had a lot of success using Totem player, which is now called Videos under GNOME. So I installed VLC, which also brings in additional codecs if the Ubuntu restricted extras didn't bring all of them in. So VLC is always a good choice to have.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, it's got the Ubuntu Software Center, or Ubuntu Software, which allows you to install snaps and Ubuntu deb files or deb packages. But what I did was, within my script, it will remove. You got the option of removing the Ubuntu store if you want, which is the Snap store. It's called Ubuntu Software, but it's actually the Snap store. And I chose to install the GNOME software, which actually has a plugin for Snap, Flatpak, and deb packages. So it's a one-stop shop for all packages within Ubuntu, not just Snap and deb packages. So
sounds like you're marketing a one-stop shop for all your software needs.
A one-stop shop for most software, so people can actually have, if they can't find their package under Snap, they can more than likely find it within Flatpak or within the deb packages. And you've got the option up on the top right side within the software to choose which repository you want to get it from. So you can choose it from Snap, Flatpak, or deb packages. So I think that's a bit more rounded for newer users to give them a lot more options of package install. So that's how I've set my Ubuntu up. And I also removed the Firefox snap and installed the Firefox web browser from the Firefox website with my browser install script. So this is what the script is all about, doing these things. And there's a lot of consensus around on the internet about enable minimize on click. So that's another thing that I've put in. And one awesome thing that I found was the GNOME extensions manager. So you don't need to go within the browser to install extensions anymore. So that's a real awesome little manager there, the GNOME extensions manager. I found really handy. You can just browse for extensions within the desktop. That's awesome. And the GNOME tweaks tool as well, I installed that. So once you got all that stuff in, I think you're pretty much ready to go, especially with, go on.
Colin, are you using the Firefox tar.gz all-in-one package? You just unzip it and it works?
Yeah, well, what I've done is with my script comes along a Firefox.desktop file. So when you
I made one too.
Yeah, it pulls it down, and then it also copies the .desktop file in the right places, so it shows up in the menu. So you don't have to worry about making a .desktop file. So it does everything for you for the. It's basically focused on new users, so they can just click a letter or a number and bang, away it goes. So and not only that. Sorry, Dan, but
Go ahead.
Yeah, when you've got an update for Firefox, if you run that script again, it'll just automatically update it to the next version.
Okay, well, the all-in-one package I got updates itself. It'll put a box
Oh.
up when you're watching it or something, and it'll show that it wants to update itself. The
Well,
all
that
one
happened to
package-
me. It just took me to the website, but didn't do anything.
Well, what you got to do actually is it'll say dismiss or download. So if you click download, it will download it and sit on it. But if you go to the Firefox, I think under help, and you go to the about, in the about, it'll say, there'll be a little bar that says update. You click on that, and then
Oh.
it'll ask you to reboot after it's done and applying the download.
Well, that's interesting to know. I didn't know that, so I've learned something today.
I use that because I'm able to copy the .mozilla folder, the .desktop file, and the Firefox extractor from one machine to another, to another, to another, because I'm testing all these Peppermint distros, and I'll have
Right.
all the same bookmarks and everything, and it'll be just like it was on the other machine.
Okay.
So I make it
Awesome.
portable.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that was my adventure with Ubuntu and the things to do. So that's the things I've done. I've been testing this bash script and making sure it was all working. So it's now uploaded to GitHub, and I'm making my video and see how we go with that.
I did nothing so complex at all with Ubuntu. Jin-
I had
Jinda.
a couple of comments
Yes.
about. Oh, okay.
Well, I'm sorry. Shravan started before I rudely cut him off. So
Okay.
Yeah, so when I first installed Ubuntu Budgie, it has a very good welcome center.
Uh-huh.
It's a Budgie welcome center, and then there's a section about software there. So I went there, and they had a one-click install for enabling and installing FlatHub, enabling Flatpaks and installing FlatHub.
Yes,
That I
that's
found
correct.
it
Yeah.
really good. Like, again, it's there directly in their software section from their welcome screen. So I think anyone can find it. And if people heard of Flatpak, they would have just clicked that button. And then Flatpak showed up in their software center. And also their welcome screen has like other things too for like choosing desktop layouts, themes, and other things. But we can talk about that later. But speaking of software, it was a very one-click experience. I think they have other recommended software, which you can just one click and download too. So that's good too.
now does Ubuntu?
Yeah, Ubuntu Budgie had. Sorry.
Yeah. So do they have their own software center? Is it
Yeah, it's I can open it right now, and I don't exactly remember because it was a week ago, but it was really good. It launches directly from the welcome screen
They support Flatpaks and snaps
and
and
snaps. So
yes, they support it all.
okay?
most of the software, so they say it's installed software. They have software center and snap apps, Flatpak, and they have recommendations. And the recommendations, they have stuff like Dropbox, Nemo, Flatpak, snaps, like all these things. Even snaps, it shows like snap is already installed, but I think there's a button there. Maybe if you want to disable, maybe you can install it again easily, like one-click installs.
So are there any of the official versions of Ubuntu that don't have some sort of a software center store? Like Ubuntu, does that have a software type store? Do we know?
Sorry, what was that question?
So the Ubuntu, the Xubuntu, does that also have like obviously Ubuntu proper has a store. Kubuntu's got Discover. Lubuntu, I know they're using Discover as well. Budgie, they have some sort of a store. Mate, I know they have their software center. Studio, I'm sure uses Discover. Xubuntu, do they have a software center that they use for?
It's just a
managing?
Jinder
software.
should know.
Yeah, it just says software on it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It'd be
And
GNOME software, I think. I think it's GNOME
Think it's GNOME
software, I
software?
believe.
Okay.
Yeah. But it
Okay.
was very limited. Like you had to go to Synaptic to get a lot of packages,
That's interesting.
which was installed by default. Which I noticed. I mean, I was trying to install a couple of things and I searched for it and it just didn't come up. But Synaptic is installed by default. When Dan Kelly said that it wasn't installed by default on the distro he was running, which I was surprised.
Mate don't come with it.
Yeah, but why would it not? I mean, you need it. You can't.
Because
there's all kinds of-
Mate wants you to use the software boutique, which is their store.
Right.
I
Same
find
thing
that
with Budgie
ridiculous.
too. Budgie doesn't come with Synaptic. It's just a software center.
Software boutique comes as the Snap too.
things.
Yeah,
to
they
get,
call it Software Center. I don't know what app it's running behind, but they call it. It looks awfully familiar, like with the Elementary's App Store.
GNU Linux says in the chat that Mate has it has Synaptic in the boutique, so if you need to install it, you can install it from there. But apparently,
I just did sudo app install Synaptic and it went and got it.
yeah. So low spec Linux laptops is also the Software Center is missing a lot, so you can add it Synaptic, get it with Synaptic. So when I set up my my Ubuntu proper, I went through the settings. I feel like the settings are a lot better now in GNOME than they were previously. Like I didn't actually end up installing GNOME tweaks because I could tweak everything I wanted now in Software Center that mattered to me. Little things like a minimize button. They gave me that, so I didn't have to look for that. So I like the minimize button. But what was really nice is the appearance. You can select like what color scheme you want. So I went with a dark style with the green color scheme, and I was pretty much as happy as can be just by having that.
Green even on Ubuntu.
Yeah, I like green. Green is, it's easy being green. Just ask Kermit.
Right, well, currently, right here.
Mate comes with a lot of green.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Yes.
Now, I did have a little hang up when installing Telegram, the desktop client. It like got stuck at 69% for a long time. Did anybody have any issues of like things just like getting stuck?
That can be a normal process with Ubuntu software, I've noticed. And then if you close it, you'll probably find it's installed.
That's exactly what happened. And so I thought
that
was,
happened to me too.
all right. I thought that was a little bit bonkers. I did not file a bug report, so shame on me. Maybe there's one out there already. I don't know. But I thought that was just a little bit weird. And then I was able to use the Telegram desktop, no problem. As far as the other things, I didn't have any issues installing anything else. It seemed like that just happened with that one. So I don't know if maybe this is the first time it happens, and then after that it's okay, or I don't know. Maybe.
Do you know if it was a snap or a deb file?
I am pretty sure it was a snap. Yeah, Snap Store. That's where it was. The source was Snap.
Okay.
So there's one confusion about like installing software when you're not doing it through the Software Center, is that you don't know what version you're installing. Like there again, other parts in the Budgie Welcome Center where you can install software, but it won't tell you if it is a deb or it's from the repos or if it is a Flatpak or is it just Snap. It doesn't tell you.
So Ubuntu, the Ubuntu software boutique does not tell you, whatever it's called.
No, that tells us, but when you click on the Welcome Center,
oh, okay.
When you click on buttons to install software, it doesn't tell you. It does stuff in the background, but it doesn't tell you from where it's installing software.
Okay.
But maybe new users don't care, right? You click on a button, you get software, you're happy. So
Right.
maybe that's fine. But for me, I would actually like to know, because the Ubuntu what I've used is WSL, so I don't have like experience using like snaps and Flatpaks that much. So I would actually like to know what I'm installing.
Yeah, I know the Ubuntu software. It did have a little drop down with source, and so I just installed the snap. I don't know if it does No, it doesn't do Flatpaks. I read that article. Okay. Well, very cool. As far as anybody else have any challenges installing software, or did everything that they installed go fine? As far as general user experience, how would you describe your experience like just using Ubuntu, Mark?
I'm fine with it now after many years of playing with GNOME. Of course, I like the Cinnamon desktop in Met, so that seems to be my favorite.
Okay.
But no, I didn't have any user issues, and I again, it just seems to work. GNOME 42 didn't seem to, doesn't bother me any. Don't see any problems with it.
Yeah, I was actually surprised how
I'm not real technical on it, so it's just, it just feels fine.
Right. I was actually surprised how much I enjoyed GNOME this time, and I would never say that normally. Like this is kind of off in left field for me a little bit, but actually I enjoyed using GNOME this time. I feel like the user experience was much cleaner, and I didn't feel like I was fighting it. And maybe that's just because the way Ubuntu massages it. I don't know, but I felt like it was a much more intuitive experience than what GNOME has been historically for me. So I do have to say that.
So
I've
for
been
me,
trying,
go ahead.
I have been trying the remote desktop that's built in that Vince mentioned, but I'm having problems with that. It's for some reason, there seems to be a pretty well-known bug that's coming up that says token supplied to the function is invalid. So it looks like it looks like there's activity on that bug this week. So
Okay. Did the bug bite you?
yeah, it's not allowing me to connect.
Okay.
So
No. Okay. The bug bit you. It happens.
Yep.
I'm sure they get it fixed here in short order for sure. So Shravan, you're gonna say something else, or Shravan?
Yeah, it's not exactly related, but like the overall, I think Ubuntu Budgie is a very, very polished experience. Like there's a lot of customization available in terms of layouts, in terms of applets. They have a bunch of Ubuntu Budgie. They make applets, like different sort of app menus and other like buttons for the panel and other widgets, which I haven't tried, but they look interesting. And they have like a section in the welcome center to set the desktop layout, and they have multiple sections. You can make it look like Windows, Mac, and like Unity, like whatever. They have their own names for it. It's a funny name. I think the Windows one is named Redmond. Sorry. The Redmond is in Washington, right? I don't know.
It is.
Yeah, so it's funny names, but you know when you look at the layout, this is Windows.
Is the Mac one like Cupertino or whatever, something like that?
Yeah, exactly, it's Cupertino.
Yep.
So and they also, apart from desktop layouts, they have like different themes. I'm using the Mojave theme. They have like other sorts of themes, Arc Dark. I think these are common, but other themes too. It's like a one-click setting. Everything is like very refined in these themes. Like generally, when you customize themes in other GTK-based environments, it's like if you know what you're doing, you make sure like everything is like a coherent experience. But in this, it's like everything is done for you. It's like a one-click experience. I think new users again will have a good time, like just experimenting with stuff, because this is like, again, everything is really polished, and it has a really nice global dark mode too. All the apps, they work on the dark mode really well. And yeah, overall, it's like really, really polished and from my end.
That's good. I know that a couple of people on the Ubuntu Budgie team, well, Matt, my co-host on Linux Out Loud, he does do some work with the Ubuntu Budgie team, and Maru Gaspari, he does a lot of blog posts for the Ubuntu Budgie team as well. And I think that they're doing like a kind of a gaming focus with Ubuntu Budgie, is my understanding, and I think that's pretty cool.
I think again in the software recommendation centers, they have stuff for gaming, again, which I haven't seen yet because I don't game a lot. So they have, when you install software, they have like a gaming section where you can install a bunch of so it shows, I'm opening it right now, it shows Bluetooth, Steam, RetroArch, Mini Galaxy. So they have like one-click installs for all these apps.
Yeah, that's cool.
For clients and tools, and yeah, Discord, OBS Studio, and also a lot of games, Valheim. It's really cool.
Yeah, and that's very cool. I hope that they continue, like carving out that niche for Ubuntu Budgie, and it's a good niche. I think if they go after that, I think, because if you have a gaming focused Ubuntu, I mean they can all do it, but like one that's maybe a more tailored experience. And
also for the Pi, they have their own tweak tool, which I really liked. I really wanted to spotlight this. They call it like Budgie ARM tweak tool or Raspberry Pi tweak tool. They wrote their code themselves. I went to the GitHub, and it's like really cool. It has multiple options. Like there's a one-click button overclocking. Generally, in the Pi, you have to go to boot settings and change some things there to overclock your Pi. But here they have just a GUI interface, and then they have, again, one-click installs for SSH, enabling SSH, VNC, XRDP in the same thing. And they have like different, again, the boot settings, which you set parameters for the kernel. They have stuff directly in the Raspberry Pi tweak tool and stuff. Again, I know what I'm doing, so I can go there and actually change to what I want. But many of the common options, they're just giving in a simple like app.
That's cool.
I find really cool.
Yeah, I think anytime they a distribution or desktop does something to kind of make it easier to get to the things you need to get to, I think that's always a win, a huge plus. So I want to welcome Eris. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut you off.
Yeah, I don't think any other distribution has something like this. There's something similar for the official Raspberry Pi. Someone else wrote the code, but it's not as convenient. Like I've tried to use that, but this is the best thing. Like one of the best like Raspberry Pi configuration tools I've seen.
Did you share any pictures in the Telegram or or Discord or anything like that of those tools? I'd be interested in seeing that if you want to.
Yeah, I can share.
Yeah,
I have.
Yeah, okay, you should share that. Excellent.
I shared just the desktop, but I didn't share the tweak tool.
Yeah, the tool. I'd like to see that tool. I'd be interested in seeing that. All right, I want to welcome Eris and Linux Ninja to the Saloon. You know, you've come fashionably late, of course, but better late than never. Or that's what I have to say anyway.
I'd have been here earlier, but I figured you were probably talking about Ubuntu. So,
aren't you an Ubuntu Arch user or something like that? Is that what it's called, Ubuntu Arch?
Is that what it's called?
Well, welcome.
I use Arch, by the way.
I heard this. Is this new that you switched to Arch? Is this
just a few years ago? Before that, I was on Debian for over 10 years.
Okay, so you're familiar with the Debian land. Then Eris, I didn't. Is your microphone working?
Must be on Ubuntu.
Could be.
Have an audio problem.
I thought Eris ran Fedora. Does anybody know what Eris runs? That was Fedora. I could be wrong. I'm wrong a lot. Often wrong soon. So as far as any other thoughts about Ubuntu?
Yeah, I think I'd like to say I think Ubuntu proper anyway. The look out of the box is pretty good. I think they've nailed that for sure. And talking on the tweaks, you said you didn't install GNOME tweaks, but if you did want to change your font type, you would have to install GNOME tweaks to do that. So I don't think you can do that within the normal GNOME settings. So there are a few other things you can change, and your GNOME shell, if you wanted to change those sorts of things in the tweaks as well. But I think it seems to be working pretty good anyway. So and the dark theme's nice. I like the dark theme. So I'm normally a theming guy. I like to use my type of themes, but I haven't felt the need to sort of change it too much. The dark theme looks pretty good overall. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I thought the dark theme was perfect. I liked it. It just had the right shades in my view. Oh, I want to make one comment about the splash screen. Did anybody notice the new logo? Like, did it really stick out in their face?
You're talking about the Ubuntu logo?
Yeah. Oh, you're here. Yeah. What did you what did you think? I mean, to you, is it a big deal that the circle is more centered on
I think it looks good in the login screen. I think the icon looks good in certain ways, but like if you have like a banner, like in a conference, and you had the name next to it, Ubuntu, I think it looks very good there. But I don't think it's as you can apply it everywhere. Like usually you need like a circle or like a square, because sometimes you just need the icon. But if you have the name next to it, if you have Ubuntu next to the logo, I think the way it's structured, it does look very good.
Yeah, there's a lot of orange space. It's got a lot of orange space in it.
It reminds me.
I thought it was a little odd.
It reminds me of a postage stamp.
like a really tall.
It needs the
stamp.
name next to it, like
now,
Eris said.
They are following the thirds, like as far as placement and whatnot, so it's okay there. But yeah, I don't really understand. Like, I'd have been fine with like a circle around the logo. Like, and they changed the logo itself, like it's supposed to be, I guess, like three people like dancing or whatever, or like
holding hands.
Yeah,
it's three people holding hands. It's Ubuntu is supposed to be computing for humanity or something like that.
Right.
So it's three people holding hands, and the other way, the way it was structured, the other logo, it made it seem like there was three people holding hands, but they were looking up. like they had the heads all the way back. And
Right.
now that the way the logo is, it doesn't seem that way. It just seems like they're all in a huddle.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
that's correct.
I think it'd feel kind of awkward if I was like looking at somebody's eyes that close. But yeah, that's just me. I'd rather look up. I don't care though. Anyway, I thought, but I like. I mean, the changes as far as the circle piece. I think that's fine. I don't know about the rectangle. I mean, to me, it's whatever. Like in the when you do see it as an icon, they make it down to a little circle. So whatever, it works. That's just
Have you seen the Budgie wallpaper? It's really cool. One of the best wallpapers I've seen.
I like the wallpaper too. The kind of the low poly count jellyfish. I think that's cool. I think they do a good job with the overall branding for sure. Anybody else have anything they want to say about the general experience? All right. So now when you're in that taxi cab, sharing a taxi cab with a total stranger, and they say, "Which Ubuntu should I try and why?" What would you say, Colin?
I would say, oh snap, you know all about Ubuntu.
Well, he happened to peek over at your laptop somehow and saw like there was a Linux logo on there.
Yeah, I would say, look, mostly I recommend Linux Mint mostly, but I mean, if I was to recommend Ubuntu, yeah, I would have to think that I would say that it's fairly simple to install, and it's got most of the packages you need within a software center, without getting into the Flatpak and Snap debate, and it just works. So probably slightly different to other desktop environments. That would be the only difference. It would probably be a slight change in the desktop paradigm that you're probably used to.
Okay, because the taskbar is to one side as opposed to the bottom.
Yeah, and the way GNOME 42 works now is just slightly different, I think, to what it was. But not that people would know the difference between that if they're a new user anyway. So, yeah.
Ben, did you have something to say about the general user experience of Ubuntu?
I was actually kind of wanting to give an overview of my experience with Unity Ubuntu, but I can wait till you guys finish this topic. That's no problem.
So, yeah, Unity. We're gonna get to the unofficial flavors another week, but yeah, so cool. All right, Dan, what would you say if you were riding a taxi cab with somebody and they asked you what version of Ubuntu should I try and why?
If they are a Windows user, I would probably tell them to try the Ubuntu Mate, perhaps maybe even Budgie, perhaps, because you can lay it out so you have a panel at the bottom, just like you would with Cinnamon. And I've used it for a while, and it comes with a lot of stuff. Budgie's kind of the same way. It's got kind of a theme going for itself that makes it easy to use. The Ubuntu GNOME, that's an acquired taste. Some people love it. Some people don't like it because of the way the icons all pop up in your face on the screen. I think they designed it that way to make it more intuitive to use with touch screens. So
Okay.
that's if somebody was into touch screens, I'd tell them, use the GNOME version.
Okay, Jinda, if you were to, let's say you're sharing an elevator with somebody, and you've only have a few seconds between floors, but maybe it's one of those slower elevators. Well, and what would you say would be your elevator pitch for Ubuntu?
Well, first off, I wanted to try to see if I could get Pipewire to work properly with jack audio and everything. And instantly I found a way to do it, and all I had to do is copy and paste. So, I mean, Ubuntu is fantastic with how much they got of support and background, and everybody seems to have some kind of tutorial on how to do what you're looking for. So, I mean, well, like Dan said, some like the GNOME ones, I would kind of lean away from a beginner user due to the fact of the difficulties of getting used to it. And I would probably stay away from Mate also because it didn't have enough sense to install Synaptic in it because half the stuff's missing from the store. Sorry, not trying to be cruel.
No, it's fine. I got you. Now, could one make the argument, I'm just throwing it out here, being a little bit of a devil's advocate, could one make the argument that it might be better to actually do something like Ubuntu proper, because it is different enough that you kind of force people into maybe a slightly different mindset, saying this is not Windows.
Oh yeah, agreed, 100%.
That maybe there's an advantage in having that slight paradigm difference.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
that's
saying.
on the personality of the person that you're picking. You really don't know that off the top of your head
Absolutely.
unless you knew the person.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I would
it requires.
Go ahead, Colin.
I was going to say it requires somebody who likes change, I suppose, or can adapt to change. I think.
Right.
With that type of personality.
Well, people can adapt from the Windows to Mac workflow, right? People have made that transition and sometimes are happier. And because it is a different user interface, that it helps them to understand there's different ways of doing things. That maybe that
yeah,
might
but they're
be
probably more than likely aware that Mac exists though, whereas it's probably a different scenario with Linux. You know what I mean? So they probably would accept that there's going to be differences because they know Mac exists, because it's out there in your face just as much as Windows.
That's a good point. But we are talking about an elevator where someone asks you about Ubuntu. So I mean, there's.
Oh, I forgot we're in the elevator. Jeez, it's you and I now.
No doors, no escape.
The door's shut. You heard the ding. It's starting to go up. Mark.
Yeah, so the first thing I would ask is, what are you going to install it on, right? If many people are on a budget, want to do an old laptop, and I would say, yep, if I would try Ubuntu or XFCE, and if it's cloud, I would say same. Try something like that, because your RAM's probably going to be limited. If it's a modern desktop or a modern laptop, I'd say use either probably go with GNOME and give that a try. And then as it was in my case, I had a brand new laptop and needed that latest kernel. So, you know, all the Ubuntu flavors come with the latest kernel, right? But you may, you could try any one of the desktops that way.
So when you say old laptop, what is the cutoff in years in your mind?
I was thinking like 5, 6, 7 years.
Okay.
Specifically, if it's got a pass mark less than 1500, I wouldn't even bother.
All right. I think that's a good point.
So I wonder what, Dan, your potato, do you happen to know what the pass mark is on yours?
What do you mean by pass mark?
Pass mark is a benchmark that's commonly known for CPUs. So if you know your CPU, you could Google what the pass mark is.
The CPU, I believe, is a T9500 dual core.
T9500. Let me see if I can Google that real quick.
Oh my God, it's 1016.
Yeah, so that would have been in my case. I think and if it's got less than 2 megabytes of RAM too, I would.
It's got 8.
Okay, well, and without an SSD, I wouldn't bother with it.
It does Debian-based distros really well. That's why I keep it around for testing for them guys.
Yeah.
Plus I have, it's had Peppermint on it most of its life since I've had it. So I do have faster machines. I have one that's older than that that's around here. It's Latitude D630.
Great
They
machine.
made a lot of those.
Great machine. Rock solid. Can hurt somebody with it.
Yes, it doubles as a weapon.
Yeah, it does.
If you can put an SSD and have more than 2 gigs of RAM in those old laptops, they'll work just fine for people on a budget.
Yeah.
But for your daily driver, I really wouldn't mess with anything less than 1500 pass mark.
That's interesting. Okay, I like that you actually have a clear number on there as to where the cutoff is. That's pretty great.
My pass mark is just keep distro hopping till something works.
Well, there's distros out there like Antix and Devon and all, and all the other ones. Some of these potatoes, I put 32-bit systems on them and they run great. The developers tell me there's less resources in the 32-bit version, so they don't need as much.
Right, there is.
And I think Siobhan had something to say before. We didn't get back to him because I slightly interrupted.
I feel like we're cutting him off all the time.
I was saying like a GNOME is a big leap from Windows users because I think having something more similar like Plasma or which has a traditional desktop environment with a minimize button, I think minimize button is very important. I think I would recommend for a new user who doesn't know about Linux, a desktop environment with a minimize button.
Okay.
I think in these old machines, they have one thing in them the newer ones don't, and that's DVD drives.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like heart and soul, but okay.
Yeah, you throw a light distro in it with VLC and the right codec pack. You know, you're watching your DVDs again.
Yeah, that's true. So Vince, you're in that elevator or taxi cab, whichever you prefer.
Yes, sir.
And it doesn't matter. It could be, you know, or wait, you're on a carnival ride. So you're going on the Ferris wheel, and you end up with a stranger because you somehow got separated from your family, and this is, hey, I'm gonna try. I really want to try this Ubuntu. Which one do you recommend?
So the first thing I would probably do is either slap myself or pinch myself to see if I'm dreaming, because I've never met another person in real life that uses Linux.
Really?
Right? That's the first thing I would do.
Okay.
No, haven't.
Have you met Colin?
No, I mean, Australia is a fairly large country. So, and we're on opposite ends of the country, right?
Oh, okay.
I'd happily recommend Ubuntu proper to somebody, mainly because I know that it's probably going to work on the majority of hardware, and I know that they've done a lot of work to verify that and make sure that it runs on a lot of different hardware. And further to that, I tend to always, like, if I need to spin up a machine or quickly write a USB to boot something up, I'm probably going to go with Ubuntu because I know that that's probably going to work for me. Different people might have different experiences, but that's where I would probably sell it. And the other big point that I would say about Ubuntu proper with GNOME is probably that it looks. My summary of it is that it looks professional. That's how it looks to me. Especially even with the new logo. I know some of you guys, aren't too keen on it, but to me, it actually looks like a professional new logo. And I think the fact that we were talking about it means that it's probably done its job of grabbing your attention and saying, look, this is Ubuntu with the new font, with their writing and stuff. I think that's a really good thing. And just on the point about GNOME being usable or not for a new user, there was a point made that people can transition to Windows to Mac. Now, what I've been seeing of late is GNOME actually resembling Mac more and more in terms of its user experience. You've got your applications that open up all in a screen. You've got your window switching, which it's like I think it's called Mission Control in Mac, which a lot of people use. And in distros such as Ubuntu, you've got a dock as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we're confident that people can transition from Windows to Mac, then I think the leap from Mac then to Ubuntu is not that great, I reckon.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that notion. If they can do one, then they can do the other, for sure.
If you can use a smartphone, I think because I think GNOME also works great on touchscreens, right? So if you can use a tablet or a touch or a smartphone, then I think you're at home here as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I don't think it's necessarily just about having a touch screen, though I guess that's not the point. But having the app grid and such gives it a familiar paradigm that people coming from mobile devices will like. It's not necessarily that they have to touch it, but they understand a grid of icons for apps and things like that, rather than a menu, like a start menu, kind of cascading menu thing.
Once again, Adam comes to the rescue and explains things.
Yeah, it's a good point. Good point. We'll get to you, Adam. Just hold your horses there. Keep playing your PlayStation 2. Shravan. If so, you're stuck in a taxi cab with a stranger, and they ask you about which version of Ubuntu they should try, what do you go with?
Probably Ubuntu or Kubuntu.
And why?
Again, it's a traditional desktop environment. It's what most people are familiar with. Like having them an easier, like it's something familiar to them, and then they can learn Linux, and that way it's a easier starting point. When most of the desktop actions you do are familiar, same is a similar file manager, everything is similar. It's a start menu, is a panel on the bottom with system tray on the right. It's what most people use, and I think that's the way to introduce people to Linux.
Okay.
And it has a minimize button.
Yep, I would agree with you. I actually am in the camp that the traditional desktop environments paradigm is better, but that's for me, and I agree. I see both sides of it, and they're both very valid, ultimately. But
like once you get used to Linux, it's like your terminal based, so that's fine. But it's a easier starting point for people if you have a traditional desktop environment.
Yeah, and like the Chromebooks use that traditional desktop environment paradigm as well. So a lot of people, I think, a lot of kids are using Chromebooks, and so they're probably more comfortable with that as well. Maybe, perhaps, who knows? Adam, I don't know if you can like.
Yeah. What's up?
I don't know if you can multitask, but if you were stuck on an escalator, it got stopped, so you can't move now because the escalator's stuck and nobody knows how to walk.
Yeah,
right. And you don't know actually how to walk up the stairs when they're stopped. And someone asked you about which Ubuntu and why. What would you say?
I would say vanilla Ubuntu, the GNOME one.
Okay.
It is the base one, right? So that's what most people are going to look for when they look for tutorials, when they look for information. It's all going to be on the base Ubuntu. The packages are largely the same, because it's Ubuntu, right? But yeah, I think the support structure is there for the vanilla Ubuntu. You're smirking? Is there something I'm saying?
No, it's just what Vince put in the chat. He made me laugh.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, so vanilla Ubuntu would be like definitely the base, like the normal choice, and that's where most people will be able to get their answers. And we've mentioned people moving to Mac OS and such without too much issue. Mostly the issues I see with people moving to Mac are people who just don't want, like, they do it without wanting to, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, I think largely the Ubuntu one would be there, just because if you just do Google searches or find YouTube videos and stuff, it's almost entirely Ubuntu.
Okay.
And that the other flavors are only just cursory looks, generally speaking.
Oh, it's a bit of a slight, but I understand it coming from you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, these are all good points. All right, now Ben, I don't know if you do you try one of the official flavors of Ubuntu?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
And I'm guessing, reading your chat in YouTube, if I were to surmise that Ubuntu would be the one that you would push, would that be an accurate or an inaccurate statement?
I've always been a hardcore Ubuntu fan. And that's mostly because in the past, I was never really a big fan of GNOME, other than the GNOME 2 interface. But so, I mean, I have nothing against GNOME 3 or 4. It's just the fact that.
So then, if you were going to recommend a flavor of Ubuntu, is that then what you would recommend?
The XFCE version, probably.
And then, but then why? Why would you say?
Well, because in reality, it's really. I understand that there's a lot of tutorials out there for the GNOME edition, the mainline edition, but in my opinion, I would say XFCE is really easy. It's not that hard to customize when you get your hands wrapped around it, and it does require a little familiarity, but in reality, it's in my opinion a lot. And I'm sure our good friend Anarita and Jeff from OSPEC Linux Laptop would say that they can back me on this, that XFCE, in my opinion, is a heck of a lot easier to get into than the GNOME interface, at least in my opinion, for Windows users coming over from Windows or maybe even Mac OS, because I mean, XFCE has been around for years. And Jeff even says here, XFCE, the interface is so much like classic Windows. The UI is familiar. And I would have to agree with that because, you know, you have your upper panel and the bottom panel, and you can easily change that to whatever the heck you want and make it whatever you want. And it's really not that hard to do. So I think, in my opinion, I would recommend the Ubuntu version, in my opinion.
That's cool. It's nice to have a diverse set of opinions on that, and you know, because you see things from a certain lens, and there's a lot of people who see it from that lens too. So, well, thank you very much, Ben. Eris, if you were to recommend a version of Ubuntu official Ubuntu flavor, you're stuck in. I'm running out of ideas. You're stuck in the teacup at the carnival ride, and you're spinning around, and it says, "Hey, I want to try Ubuntu. Which one should it be?" What would you tell them?
I would recommend Ubuntu Mate.
Okay.
Ubuntu Mate is probably lighter than GNOME. It has a lot of different ways you can set up your desktop easily. It has probably the best software store with the boutique. It has a curated software list. If you just give them like a GNOME software, there's too much stuff in there. They're never gonna find everything. And the software boutique, everything's curated. It has probably the best software in Linux available. And it's the theming is very easy to do too now. They stopped doing the snaps, and now they have actual themes for every single color, I think.
Okay. Well, I didn't try that one, but that is the Martin Wimpress distro. So
Yeah, they kind of dumped the blue and the green submarine theme and replaced them with some other themes with much more color and dark mode and all that other
it's
stuff.
like Chelsea cucumber or something like that.
There's like 7 colors you can pick from now.
Oh, okay.
And now that they include the Mate Tweaks tool, it's built in when you get it. You don't have to go and download it and install it on top of your Mate.
I got you. Very cool. Now, so how fast is your teacup spinning around? Did you end up vomiting, Eris? How fast is your teacup spinning when you're talking about Ubuntu Mate?
You mean the Mate cup?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Mate cup.
Yeah. Mate has also been more stable. Back like 2 cycles, 2 LTSs. It wasn't as stable as having as even Martin said that it wasn't too stable. Last time it was more stable, but I think this is probably the most stable version that has ever come out.
That's excellent. I like to hear that things keep improving. I think that's great. All right. Linux Ninja, if you were to recommend something that's not Arch, so I know this is hard for you, but let's say an Ubuntu base official, which would you go with?
Kubuntu.
And why?
I'm just a huge KDE fan. For many years, I was 100% GNOME.
Mm-hmm.
Recent changes to the GNOME project have just soured me on GNOME. I do like Pop OS's implementation of GNOME. I could go with that, and that's, I guess you could say, an Ubuntu derivative. So if I was going to recommend something outside of what we're talking about, with Pop OS, but other than that, Kubuntu.
Okay, I think that's fair. I would have normally always said Kubuntu because that's kind of my jam. Yeah, like the Plasma, and so I agree with you there that I think Kubuntu is great. But I really liked GNOME this time, and I've never ever said that in my life ever. So I don't know. Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age. All right. Well, that wraps it up for our distro exploration of Ubuntu proper. Next week, on the menu for next week, thank you, Eris, for reminding me, will be an open mic night. So bring your whatever out there in the community from whatever. Go to the Destination Linux forum or now the Tux Digital forum, and if you have engage some conversation there. If you have something else out there in the community to talk about, bring that. But I also do want to bring up in 2 weeks, so not the 28th, but the 4th of June, we're actually going to do another distro exploration. I really wanted to do Ubuntu Unity, but that wasn't an official one, and I sort of got slapped down by the rest of the panel on that we'd muck up the water too much. So we're going to do another exploration in 2 weeks of one of the unofficial Ubuntu flavors. So it can be cinnamon or Unity, or there's a bunch of them. There's a lot. So come back and for distro exploration of that. You have 2 weeks to test it out. And also, I want to bring up in 2 weeks on the 4th, we're going to do an early edition of Linux Saloon as well. the host isn't 100% locked in, but we are going to do one for sure. So I just want to let you know after Twill, about 1500 or 3 p.m. Eastern, we'll do a Linux Saloon early edition. So okay, and also so thank you all for participating in the exploration. I super appreciate it. It was a lot of fun, and I want to get to now a community member focus, so a free pour, as it were. Ben, you have been working on Storm OS, and so
a heck of a lot, I might add.
yes, a heck of a lot. And you've also been you've been well, I was going to use some words, but they didn't sound right. So pestering me about talking about it, and so I want you to tell everybody, like, real quick. We're pretty much we're basically out of time now.
I'm not gonna plug it too hard, but
just tell us like the real highlights. Storm OS is awesome because why?
Well, I'll put it this way. I'll give a brief history on it, then I'll go into the main features. Well, it started out, my buddy Matthew Moore, who I'm sure a lot of people here are familiar with. He's a longtime Linux user, and he and I became fast friends years ago. And he was using Manjaro for many years and a couple other Linux systems based on XFCE. And so he came to me saying, Ben, we're tired of Manjaro and all this stuff that is going on. So we decided to come up with our own Arch spin, called originally Arch by MM. But the problem with that was we found out during development that Arch was picky about the naming scheme because of trademarks, whatnot.
Sure.
So we decided to change it to Hackman Linux, which was the original name of Storm OS, which a lot of people liked but didn't like. And so he and I had 2 releases that we did of that, which at the time used the old PackBang installer that Carl Duff used to use. And so he eventually dropped off the team, and I remade the team with a couple of people like Silent Robot, my buddy Seeker, a couple of others, and it became what is now known as Storm OS with the Calamares installer, killer themed XFCE, and dozens of wallpapers courtesy of my buddy TJ Wolf. And we now have a website courtesy of my buddy Lynn, and just a lot of different things, including a system tool now that installs the NVIDIA drivers for people that use it, and a dozen other things that I can't think off the top of my head. But it's become very, very easy for somebody like a newbie from Windows or Mac or something like that doesn't know what the heck they're doing with Linux and needs a lot of help, that this would not make it to where they would need a boatload of help to get going with. And so it basically dumbed down Arch to the nth degree, I would say. And when I called up my buddy eBuzz, aka Troy, on the phone, he said that this version of Arch is the one that he could not destroy at all. And so this one, I think you guys would get a heck of a lot of praise towards me out of, to be honest. And I mean, this is, I think, and a lot of folks out there have said that Storm OS has been one of, if not the best Arch system that they have seen in a heck of a long time. So I think, this is really something that we all should have a look at some point.
Well, cool. So how long has Storm OS in its current forum, how long has it existed?
Well, I would say since 2019 or 2020.
Okay.
And we've made some changes to the theming and whatnot over the years.
Of course, they all do.
And, because sticking with one particular setup is hard to do, and it's not really good for growth. And we do monthly updates because, Arch changes all the time. I mean, they don't really do routinely updates to their systems, but the most of what we do is like, the reason we do ISO updates is so that the system doesn't fall apart, because if you don't do regular ISO updates, then your system will break eventually. So that's kind of why we do that.
So how
And,
how old can an ISO get before it becomes a problem?
well, we did have that. Well, we did let it ride for a couple of months at one point, and that did sort of yield in having to do keyring updates and things like that. And but in the tool we now have, in the system tool, we now have a thing to where you can click to update the keyring, the arch keyring, things like that. So it's really not become something where we have to do ISO updates as much, but in a sense, it is still something that we want to do just to avoid things potentially coming a problem.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yes.
So you say that your unique competitive edge for Storm OS is that it's an easy to install and maintain and use XFCE desktop environment based on Arch.
Yes, and a lot of people have attested to this claim, and you know, I think, and my buddy Seeker and everybody else on the team and several YouTubers have all attested to this, and you know, they feel that we've even beat people like Endeavor and Garuda and several other competitors on this, hell, even Salient OS for that matter. And so, and here's the thing about Salient, they haven't done any system updates to their ISOs since.
Well, it's Silent Robot that runs that one, right?
Yeah, and he is actually he was on the team for a while, but he's not done any sort of Linux updates to his system in a long time.
Sure.
And so I think that, you know, given everything that we've done to the system, it's become, you know, a lot more than that, in my opinion. And you know, so if you guys do look at this, it would be greatly appreciated. And and we've had like over 453 at the moment, and on SourceForge alone. And so if you guys did look at this, it would mean a lot to me and the team, and you know, just something that I think y'all should consider at some point. So yeah, I mean,
well, excellent.
Whenever you go ahead.
Yeah, I would say so. We're just pretty much out of time now. So all right, well, thank you very
No
much,
worries.
Ben. I do appreciate you bringing that up, and I wish continued success on
Thank
that.
you.
And maybe what we'll do is, you know, give us some time because we have a lot of things scheduled out here for a while.
No worries.
But we'd like, you know, maybe we can
Yeah.
you know, try it out here. We'll see how the community
See what the
feels about it.
consensus
Yeah.
is. Yeah. All right, cool.
So excellent.
Well, I will definitely be here for the off the wall Ubuntu versions, because I'm planning to download the Unity edition, and maybe I'll talk about it in
Excellent.
2 weeks or something.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, and I want to. It's closing time. We've kept the saloon open a little bit later than normal, but that's okay because, you know, it's fun to do that. So Mark, I know that you have your Atlanta Linux users group, right? Is that correct?
That's correct. And again, folks are welcome to join us online each Sunday from 3 to 6 Eastern. It's a open forum where you just ask for help. And that's the Atlanta Linux Enthusiasts. ALE.org, ALE.org is where you would find that. And yeah, in case anyone needs help.
That's excellent. I'm glad you are still running that and keeping it going, and I hope it continues to do well. And also, Self, you'll be giving a talk at Self, so don't forget that you have to plug yourself at Self.
That's right. Southeast Linux Fest will be coming up second week in June, and that's an in-person event in Charlotte, North Carolina, June 10th, I believe, and it runs the weekend. They may have sessions online that you Linux folks may be interested in.
Cool. Excellent. Colin, is there anything you wanted to plug? Because you normally have a thing you want to plug. Or maybe I forced it
No.
upon you to plug something. Okay, so I forced it on you again.
No.
All right.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll do it again. So Steve couldn't be here tonight, but he has his coffee clutch every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Central. Or that's 9 a.m. for people who live in the civilized part of the world, Eastern. No offense to everybody else who doesn't live in the Eastern. But his is a nice, low-key. Hopefully he's actually on time tomorrow. I doubt it. Destination Linux is streaming live tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. So be sure to check that out. Also, I'm on a podcast with Matt and Wendy called Linux Out Loud. Be sure to check that one out as well. This is every Wednesday. You can find more stuff about me at cubicle8.com. And also, Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network. So check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. And I would thank you all for joining, being a part of the conversation in both the YouTube stream as well as the Zoom meeting, and everyone watching after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. I will see you all next week. Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time.
Bye.
See yous. And there's Steve. Right as we're closing the doors, he wants
We're
to.
closing our
He wants
Steve.
to come on in. Way to go, Steve. I'd say fashionably late, but I can't even see your face.